Blizzards isolate us. When the snow falls and the wind howls, roads become impassable. Communication breaks down. Help becomes impossible. You're trapped, cut off from civilization, with nowhere to run. Most people fear freezing to death. But sometimes the cold isn't the most dangerous thing. Sometimes being stranded means being trapped with something much worse. Something that waits for these exact moments. Tonight, 3 true stories from people who survived blizzards. But what they survived wasn't the weather. This is Last Night FM, and tonight we're going into the white. The Patterson family left Denver on January 14, 2017, heading home to Casper, Wyoming after visiting relatives. David and Linda Patterson, along with their children Emma, age 10, and Jacob, age 8, had made this drive dozens of times. It was a long route, but familiar and normally safe. The weather forecast had mentioned possible snow, but nothing severe. Light flurries, maybe an inch or two. The Pattersons had driven through worse. They left Denver around 4 p.m., expecting to be home by 10 p.m. They packed snacks, had full gas tank, and their phones were charged. Everything seemed fine. By 7 p.m., the light flurries had become heavy snow. By 8 p.m., it was a full blizzard. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. David slowed to a crawl, following the faint outline of the highway. Other cars had pulled over or turned back, but David thought he could make it. They were already halfway home. They just needed to push through. At 8:47 p.m., their car hit a patch of black ice hidden under fresh snow. The vehicle spun, slid off the highway, and became lodged in a massive snowdrift. David tried to reverse, tried to rock the car free, but it was stuck. The wheels just spun uselessly. They were about 60 miles from the nearest town, on a stretch of highway that saw little traffic even in good weather. In this blizzard, nobody was coming. David tried his phone. No signal. Linda tried hers. Same result. They were in a dead zone, something that was common in this rural part of Wyoming. The car's heater worked, but David knew they only had half a tank of gas. If they ran the heater continuously, they'd run out of fuel before morning. And the temperature outside was dropping fast. Already below zero, the family bundled up in their winter coats and shared the emergency blanket David kept in the trunk. They rationed the heat, running it for 15 minutes every hour. The children were scared but trying to be brave. Linda kept them distracted with games and stories. David kept checking his phone, hoping for a signal. None came. Around midnight, Emma screamed. Someone was at the window, a face pressed against the glass peering inside. A man's face, mostly hidden by a heavy hood, covered in snow. He knocked on the window. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. David's heart was pounding. Who was out here in the middle of a blizzard? The man gestured for David to roll down the window. David cracked it slightly. The wind immediately howled inside, bringing snow and bitter cold. "There's shelter nearby," the man shouted over the wind. "A cabin. You'll freeze if you stay here. Follow me." David hesitated. Every instinct told him this was wrong, but Jacob was shivering uncontrollably. Emma's lips were turning blue. The car's fuel gauge was dropping. If they stayed here all night, they might not survive. "How far?" David shouted back. "Quarter mile, maybe less. I can lead you." Linda grabbed David's arm. "We don't know him. We don't know if there's really a cabin. If we stay here, the kids might die," David whispered back. The decision was impossible. Stay in the car and risk freezing, or follow a stranger through a blizzard to a cabin that might not exist. David looked at his children, at their terrified, freezing faces. He made the choice. They followed the man into the storm. He moved quickly, barely visible in the blinding snow. David carried ushered them inside. There was a wood stove, firewood stacked in the corner. The man immediately started building a fire. As warmth began to fill the cabin, David started to relax. They'd made the right choice. This stranger had saved their lives. But then David started noticing details. The walls were covered in drawings, crude sketches in what looked like charcoal or burned wood. Faces, dozens of faces, men, women, children, all with exaggerated expressions of fear. Between the faces were symbols David didn't recognize, strange geometric patterns that made his eyes hurt to look at. In one corner, the wooden floor was stained dark, very dark. The stains spread out in patterns that suggested liquid had been spilled and imperfectly cleaned. Blood. David was almost certain it was blood. Linda saw it too. She pulled the children close to her. The man noticed them noticing. "Don't mind the decorations," he said, his voice strange, flat. "I get lonely out here. Sometimes I draw things I remember, things I've seen." "How long have you lived here?" David asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Long time. Years. Maybe longer. Hard to keep track." The man moved to the door and locked it. Not with a simple latch, but with a heavy deadbolt. Then he pocketed the key. "What are you doing?" Linda asked. "Keeping us safe," the man said. "Can't have the door blowing open in the storm. Can't have the heat escaping. Can't have anyone leaving until it's safe." "We'd like to leave now," David said, standing. The man smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "The storm's still going. You'll die out there. You're safe here. Nobody leaves until the storm passes. Those are the rules." For the next 3 days, the Patterson family was trapped in that cabin with the man who'd saved them. He fed them canned food from a stockpile in the corner. He kept the fire going. He was never physically violent, but he also never unlocked the door, never let them near the windows, never let them out of his sight. At night, they heard sounds from beneath the cabin, scratching, thumping, sometimes what sounded like voices. The man would smile when he heard these sounds and say, "Just the wind, just the storm, nothing to worry about." On the second night, Emma whispered to her father, "There are other children's drawings on the walls, but they're hidden under the scary faces. I can see them underneath." David looked closer and realized she was right. Beneath the disturbing sketches, there were older drawings, children's artwork, happy pictures of families and houses and sunshine, pictures that had been violently scribbled over with the frightening faces. On the third day, the storm finally broke. The man unlocked the door. "You can go now," he said simply. "Storm's over. You're free." The family ran. They didn't ask questions, didn't try to understand. They just ran through the deep snowpack toward where they thought the highway was. After an hour of struggling through drifts, they found it. A snowplow was clearing the road. The driver called for help. Police returned to find the cabin. The man was gone, but what they found inside was worse than David had seen. In the basement, accessible through a trapdoor hidden under a rug, they found remains. Human remains. Multiple victims over multiple years. They found children's belongings, toys, clothes, items that matched several missing persons cases from the past decade. The man was never found. The cabin is now demolished. But David Patterson still has nightmares about those 3 days. About the drawings on the walls. About the sounds from beneath the floor. About the smile on the man's face when he said, "You're safe now." The Whispering Pines Resort in the Colorado Rockies was a small, exclusive ski lodge that catered to wealthy guests looking for privacy and luxury. In February 2019, 23 guests were staying at the resort when when weather reports predicted a significant storm. The resort manager, Tom Reeves, assured everyone they had plenty of supplies and a backup generator. The storm would pass in a day or two. They'd be fine. The blizzard hit harder than predicted. What should have been a 24-hour storm became a multi-day siege. The resort was completely cut off. Roads were impassable. Phone lines were down. Even satellite internet stopped working. The guests settled in, making the best of the situation. They had food, heat, and each other's company. Among the guests was a man named Richard Kohler. He was in his mid-40s, traveling alone, quiet and polite. He'd kept to himself mostly, skiing alone during the day and reading by the fire in the evenings. Nobody paid him much attention until the storm hit. On the first night of the blizzard, several guests noticed Richard standing at the large picture windows in the main lodge, staring out at the storm. He stood there for hours, completely motionless, just watching the snow. When someone asked if he was okay, he didn't respond, didn't even acknowledge that he'd been spoken to. By the second day, Richard had stopped eating. He'd sit at meals with everyone else but wouldn't touch his food. He'd stare at his plate, occasionally at other guests, but he wouldn't eat or drink anything. People started to feel uncomfortable around him. On the second night, Tom Reeves, the resort manager, went to check on the backup generator in the equipment building about 50 yards from the main lodge. It was connected to the lodge by a covered walkway. Tom left around 10 p.m. He never came back. At midnight, two guests, Mark and Jennifer Collins, a married couple, volunteered to go look for Tom. They took flashlights and followed the covered walkway to the equipment building. They never returned either. The remaining guests started to panic. Sarah Chun, a guest who'd worked as an EMT, took charge. She organized the 20 remaining guests to stay together in the main lodge. They locked all the doors. They stayed in groups. Nobody went anywhere alone. But around 2 a.m., they heard footsteps in the hallway outside the main lodge. Slow, heavy footsteps, walking from door to door, trying handles. Someone was searching the building, methodically checking every entrance. Richard was sitting in the corner of the lodge with everyone else, but his eyes were closed, and he was smiling. A small, strange smile that made several people physically uncomfortable. The footsteps continued for hours. Sometimes they'd stop for long periods, then start again. Always moving, always searching. Around 4 a.m., they heard something being dragged across the floor above them. Something heavy. The ceiling creaked with the weight. When dawn came, the sound stopped. The guests did a head count. 3 more people were missing. During the night, while everyone had been focused on the sounds in the hallways, 3 guests who'd been near the back of the room had simply vanished. Nobody had seen them leave. Nobody had heard anything. That's when Sarah noticed Richard. He was no longer smiling. He was staring at his hands. They were dirty, covered in something dark. He looked up at Sarah and said, "Did I do something bad? I can't remember. After the storm came, I can't remember anything." The remaining guests backed away from Richard. They locked him in a storage closet. But the disappearances didn't stop. Over the next 2 days, more people vanished. Sometimes they'd be gone when the group woke up. Sometimes they'd leave to use the bathroom and never return. By the 4th day, only 14 guests remained. When rescue teams finally broke through on day 5, they found those 14 survivors barricaded in the main lodge, traumatized and barely coherent. Richard was found in the basement, covered in blood, still insisting he couldn't remember anything. The 9 missing people were never found, but the basement revealed a horrifying discovery. A tunnel, hidden behind old storage shelves, led from the basement out into the forest. A tunnel that predated the resort. something from when the building had been something else decades earlier. The tunnel had been recently used. There were drag marks, blood, evidence that something had pulled the victims through that tunnel and out into the snow. Richard was charged with murder, but there wasn't enough evidence. No pruebas. No witnesses who could definitively say they saw him do anything. He claimed complete amnesia from the moment the storm started. Psychiatric evaluation suggested he might be telling the truth. Richard was eventually released. The resort closed permanently. The tunnel was sealed, but nobody could explain how 9 people were taken from a locked building full of witnesses. How they were dragged to the basement and through that tunnel without anyone seeing or hearing it happen. Unless it wasn't Richard acting alone. Unless something else was in that resort during the storm. Something that Richard might have let in. Or become. Tom Henderson had worked highway maintenance in northern Minnesota for 15 years. He'd seen bad winters before, but the blizzard that hit on December 18, 2016 was exceptional. Still, the roads needed to be cleared. That's what the crew did. They went out in the worst weather so everyone else could stay home safe. Tom's crew consisted of 6 men total. 3 trucks. They'd been clearing Highway 53 since midnight, working in rotation, pushing snow to the sides, laying salt, keeping the road passable. Around 2 a.m., in the middle of nowhere about 40 miles from the nearest town, the lead truck's engine seized, just died. Middle of a blizzard with temperatures at -20 degrees. They couldn't abandon the truck. It had expensive equipment, and they couldn't all fit in the other 2 trucks with their gear. They had to wait for the rescue vehicle to come from the depot. Tom called it in. The dispatcher said it would be at least 3 hours, maybe more in these conditions. The crew would have to wait. They kept the other 2 trucks running for heat, rotating men through them to stay warm. It was miserable, but it was survivable. They'd done this before. Then, around 3 a.m., they saw headlights approaching from the south. A pickup truck, moving slowly through the storm, pulled up next to them and a man got out. He was middle-aged, wearing a heavy coat and winter gear. He looked at their broken-down truck and offered to help. "I've got tools," he said. "Maybe I can get you going, or you can wait in my truck. Got a heater. Got coffee." Tom's instincts immediately fired warning signals. Something was wrong. Nobody should be out here. Not a civilian. Not in this storm. Not on this road at 3 a.m. When Tom looked at the man's truck, he noticed several things. No company logos. No personal items visible. Very clean inside despite the storm. And in the truck bed, under a tarp, something that looked like chains and a large bundle. "We're fine," Tom said. "Rescue's on the way." The man's friendly demeanor shifted slightly. "You sure? It's dangerous out here. Cold. Anything could happen." "We're sure," Tom said firmly. The man looked at the crew. His eyes lingered on the youngest member, a 22-year-old named Danny. "What about you, son? You look cold. Come sit in my truck. Just for a bit." Danny started to move toward the truck, grateful for the offer. Tom grabbed his arm. "Danny stays here." The man's face hardened. He walked toward Danny, reaching for him. "He looks cold. I'm just trying to help." 2 other crew members stepped between them. The man stared at them for a long moment, then smiled. It was a cold smile. Empty. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. "All of you. You'll freeze out here. You'll wish you'd come with me." He got back in his truck and drove off into the storm. The crew relaxed slightly. That had been strange, but it was over. Except it wasn't. 20 minutes later, they saw headlights again. The same truck, approaching from the north now. It drove past slowly. The driver stared at them but didn't stop. Then it disappeared into the storm. 30 minutes after that, the headlights appeared again. This time from the east, coming across an access road they hadn't known was there. The truck stopped about 100 yards away. Just sat there, headlights pointed at them. After 5 minutes, it drove away. For the next 6 hours, until dawn, that truck kept appearing. Sometimes close, sometimes far away. Sometimes it would circle their position, always keeping just at the edge of visibility in the blowing snow. The crew stayed together, staying alert, weapons ready, tire irons, tools, anything they could use to defend themselves. When rescue finally arrived at 8 a.m., the crew was exhausted and terrified but alive. They reported everything to police. Based on their description, officers found an abandoned truck 10 miles down the highway. It had been stolen from a town in Wisconsin 3 days earlier. Inside, police found items belonging to multiple missing persons from across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and North Dakota. Chains, rope, duct tape, plastic sheeting, everything needed to abduct and transport victims. They found a map with routes highlighted, remote highways, places where someone could snatch stranded motorists without witnesses. The man had been hunting the highways during winter storms, looking for vulnerable targets. Tom's crew had been lucky. They'd been together. They'd been alert. They'd refused his help. The man was never caught. The FBI linked him to at least 7 unsolved disappearances of people who'd gone missing during winter storms over the past 3 years. People whose cars were found abandoned on remote highways. People who'd vanished without a trace. Tom Henderson retired 6 months later. He couldn't do the job anymore. Couldn't drive those empty highways at night. Couldn't help stranded motorists without wondering if they were victims or predators. The blizzard hadn't broken him. But knowing something was out there, hunting in the storms, using the weather as cover, that broke him. 3 blizzards. 3 encounters worse than the cold. A family held captive by a man who'd been killing for years. Resort guests hunted by something they still can't explain. Road workers stalked by a highway predator who used storms to find victims. Blizzards create perfect hunting grounds. Isolation. No witnesses. No escape. And some things wait specifically for these moments. Stay warm. Stay alert. And never trust the stranger in the snow. This has been Last Night FM.